What up, what up? If you're getting here early, make sure to drop a like on the stream, upper right. Get any questions you have in early. So, this is the best time of the stream for me to be able to specifically answer any questions, just because it's not as congested in the chat. Hope everyone's having a good day, and we'll just wait for people to start rolling in. What up, Ian? Nice to see you here. I think today we're going to be focusing a decent amount on the SEC's new filing in the Ripple SEC case. It was really hard to imagine things getting worse for the SEC based on where they stood. Things are just spiraling for the SEC. Murdoch, good to see you. Daniel Ranger, Adam, John, Linda. Linda, nice to see you here early. Halls Ball, Strong Mountain. Miguel, Battle of the Bands, Tiger, Harley. What up, what up, what up? Oh, we're popping off right now. People are funneling into the stream. Guys, we already have close to 100 people in here. Let's get a like on the stream nice and early, and let's get this thing nice and filled up. Upper right-hand corner, 3 dots. You know what to do. You know the procedure. We want to get as many people in here as possible, get the education going on XRP, get the people who are going to be left out to understand what's going on here. No settlement. Case isn't over, but guys, this is pretty insane by the SEC. Ian, that's the comment of the day. The SEC might have to. The SEC might have the $2 billion reduced to $2 by the judge. Yeah, Ian, that's what we're going to be focusing on today. That is what we're going to be focusing on today because, guys, it's actually shocking how poorly the SEC has done in this case. It's absolutely shocking. Tracy says, hope so. Tracy, hopefully after this live stream, you're going to understand why the SEC is in such a horrible position right now. But most of the lawyers following this case, right, Jeremy Hogan and another lawyer named Meta Law Man, they actually seemed kind of shocked about how bad the SEC's filing was here. It was actually kind of hard to read because it read as an angry toddler mad about the ruling. But even funnier is there's actually an attorney who used to work for the SEC by the name of Mark Fagel, who is very, very, who's kind of a big SEC supporter, right? He's kind of been having the SEC's back this entire time. He's kind of been like, oh, you know, this is why the SEC's filing isn't that bad. Even he came out, and the first thing he said in regards to this filing by the SEC was, what is going on at the SEC? He's like, they're not going to get anywhere close to what they're asking for. And you need to understand, this is someone who doesn't like Ripple, doesn't like XRP, doesn't like the XRP community, and has been siding with the SEC this entire time. He's looking at the SEC's demand for their fine and saying, what is happening here? It doesn't even make sense. So let's start off with the fact that the guy who has had the SEC's back this entire time, right? The guy who has been supporting the SEC is looking at what the SEC is asking for damages in this case and saying, look, this has to be a joke. What is this organization doing? We're going to get a little more into it. Guys, we have 300 people, only 78 likes on the stream so far. So if you're one of the 300 people who haven't liked the stream yet, please take a quick second. Upper right-hand corner, there's 3 dots. That drop down will lead you to a page where you can like the stream. It's really going to help out, so I really appreciate everyone who does that. Yeah, it's skyrocketing already, guys. Let's see if we can get this past 150 nice and quick. All right, so now that we have more people on the stream, I'll kind of do the backdrop. So, well, Daniel, we'll get into that after we go over the case. Great question, though. Essentially, right, where we are in the case right now is Ripple sold $2 billion essentially worth of XRP in this case. 700 million of that XRP sold was deemed to be a security. That XRP is not a security. The sale of that 700 million XRP was a security, right? So The SEC alleged that all $2 billion were securities. Ripple said no. The judge said, okay, you're half right, half wrong. 700 million is securities. Boom. That's where we are, right? So now the SEC is coming back and saying, okay, well, we want to be able to collect fines on Ripple's sale of that 700 million. Whatever, I think everyone agrees. All right, maybe you can collect some fines on that. The SEC is asking for $2 billion on Ripple's $700 million worth of sales that were deemed illegal securities. So, first of all, that in itself seems kind of ridiculous to me. Ripple was told by the judge, hey, you sold $700 million worth of securities. You would think the SEC would say, okay, well, $700 million, that's what we want the fine to be. The SEC is asking for $2 billion. So that's kind of the first absurd thing about this. But it actually gets even worse. So what makes this even worse is the judge said that $700 million of Ripple's XRP was sold as a security, right? But the SEC failed to account for something. Just because Ripple sold XRP as a security to an institution does not mean the SEC has jurisdiction over that sale. Why wouldn't the SEC have jurisdiction over a sale of XRP as a security, right? Because the SEC only controls the US market. You can sell securities all over the world, and the SEC doesn't have any jurisdiction to it, right? If I was to start a business and start selling securities in a nation that didn't have the same securities laws as the United States, right? I could do completely different things. Completely different things are illegal. And in some countries, XRP has clarity that it's not a security, so none of this is even an issue, right? So the SEC is now trying to claim that every single sale of XRP they have jurisdiction over. But what do we know? Most of the XRP was sold outside the United States. The SEC doesn't even have jurisdiction over it. So the SEC, right, likely only has a claim to a small portion of the 700 million that Judge Torres said was securities. Maybe, say, for example, Ripple actually sold only 100 million in the United States. So technically, the SEC should only have a claim over 100 million of Ripple's 700 million, but are asking for 2 billion. And guess what? It gets even worse than that. Because even if you narrow it down to the small amount of XRP Ripple actually sold in the United States, in order for there to actually be damages, in order for Ripple to actually pay a fine on that XRP, the XRP needs to be at a loss, right? You can't. There's no damages if the institutional investors made a ton of money. So out of that 100 million XRP, if there even is 100 million XRP that was sold in the United States, the SEC then has to prove that the people were harmed. Take a look at the XRP price chart, right? I want you to draw a line across the XRP price chart where XRP is trading now, just a horizontal line across the entire thing. What you'll notice is 90% of the XRP was sold a long time. It was sold at a point that is lower than it is today. What that means is, right? Oh, are you guys? Oh, man, I hope you guys. Okay, guys. Sorry about the stream freezing. I was still connected to Wi-Fi. It was probably messing things up a little bit. Hopefully that fixes it going forward. But just to finish the point, okay, right? Just to finish the point, of the 100 million XRP that could have been sold in the United States, we don't even know if it was all sold in the United States, it is very possible, right, that none of the institutions are even at a loss on that XRP. So just to be clear, the SEC has a claim over $700 million worth of XRP, according to the judge. Most of that XRP was likely sold outside the United States, and most of the organizations inside the United States that bought XRP are probably in a profit. What does this mean? The SEC wants $2 billion for something they probably only have a claim of a couple million of dollars on. So there is absolutely no way the SEC is getting $2 billion. What I just explained to you, right? You might think, oh, well, this is just coming from some random guy on YouTube, right? It's just an XRP influencer. But That's the reason why the SEC lawyer, right, who I talked about earlier on the live stream, right, the guy who's been a fan of the SEC this entire time, this guy who's anti-Ripple, this guy who's anti-XRP, that's why he's saying there's no way they're getting $2 billion, right? So it's not just me making up these numbers right here, me misinterpreting the law and giving it to you guys. There's a reason why the SEC guy who has been siding with the SEC throughout this entire case is sitting there scratching his head and saying, what is this organization doing, right? So clearly the SEC has taken some serious missteps here. They are now just looking like kind of foolish asking for that amount of money. We're going to have to see how it plays out. But the last really funny thing about this ruling was the SEC actually spent a large portion of the ruling, right, just bringing up tweets from the XRP community of us talking about how much we hate Gary Gensler and the SEC. Now, let me tell you why that's bad. Judge Torres, and this research was provided by Jeremy Hogan. Judge Torres is a judge that really sides with retail investors. She has always been a judge that really looks out for the common person, right? So the SEC attaching a bunch of tweets, us talking about how, hey, the SEC is harming us, the SEC has done all these terrible things to us, the SEC has been holding back our investment, the SEC, right, is doing all these terrible things. Them including that is just showing the judge, hey, the retail loves you, right? All these XRP holders, they're cheering you on as our hero. And the SEC is making it clear to the judge, hey, we are harming the people we're supposed to be protecting. So this agency is completely lost, right? This agency has no idea what they're doing. That's the last thing you want to have in this ruling. If the SEC was smart, right, they would not be showing that us retail investors are cheering on Judge Torres for essentially preventing the SEC from harming us. And this was 29 pages of, I kid you not, just damaging tweets for the SEC. One of the tweets the SEC had in there that they think is evidence against Ripple is congressman, right? A congressman saying that the SEC has not been acting in a faithful allegiance to the law. So this is the SEC going to the judge and saying, hey, judge, look, this congressman is saying that we are acting under an unfaithful allegiance to the law. This is a congressman saying that we are hurting investors. We want you to side with us. Does it make any less sense than that? And guys, this goes back to the original point I was making on this live stream a long time ago, right? The SEC does not have good lawyers. There's no other way to put it. The SEC does not have quality attorneys at the agency. All the good attorneys want to work for Ripple. All the good attorneys want to work for Coinbase. All the good attorneys want to work for the private organizations that can pay them 10x more than the SEC. So the SEC has bottom of the barrel attorneys working for them. It's showing. They're not producing. And it doesn't take a legal genius to look through this strategy and say, okay, well, maybe out of all the tweets to put in here, don't put the tweet of congressmen saying that the SEC isn't doing their job. Don't put the tweets of retail investors thanking Judge Torres for letting the SEC or reining in the SEC from attacking the people they're supposed to protect. See, these are just common sense things you wouldn't want to put in a court case. What we need to understand, right, is Judge Torres is a human. She is a human being. She is going to look at these things with a logical lens. And even if she can't directly say some of the things she's thinking, even if she has to wrap them into a legal sense, it's not good to be showing the judge that people in Congress are skeptical of what the SEC is doing to retail. So guys, I really hope that gives you a good idea of just how, pathetic this filing was by the SEC. Jeremy Hogan made a great point. He said, look, this is kind of the SEC's chance to restart. This is the SEC's chance to go back to square one and say, you know what, we did get some of these sales declared as securities. Let's figure out how to take that sale, right? Let's figure out how to take that $700 million, get a reasonable amount of money from Ripple and move on. That is not what the SEC did here. They sunk their case even further with a filing that looks like a joke to even their biggest supporters. So it doesn't get much better than this for Ripple. It's just starting to look comical to most people watching the case. Take a look at what the attorneys are saying. It's getting hard to believe that the SEC even thinks that this is a strategy. Look, guys, this is the kind of strategy, right, that works if the SEC was winning this entire case. This is the kind of strategy that would work if the SEC wasn't being called hypocritical liars, if they weren't being sanctioned by the court. But when all of that is happening and then you come forward with something like this, it's just a really, really bad look for your credibility. Guys, we almost have 600 people in this stream right now. Absolutely incredible. Make sure to drop a like on the stream. Upper right-hand corner. Let's get this thing past 250. That would be absolutely amazing. If you're new here, I would love if you subscribe to the stream. We love having new people in here. It's absolutely awesome to get new opinions, new people in the chat. We do this almost every day. So if you're tuning in for the first time, love having you here and would love to have you as a subscriber to the channel. Ed, great question. Ed says, what's the timeline now? So, a lot of people aren't going to like this timeline, but look, it's the closing phases, right? This is the SEC's, hey, Judge, we want $2 billion, right? Now, Ripple gets to come back in, I think, exactly a month from now and saying, okay, this is why the SEC gets absolutely no right to $2 billion. And it's going to be a very, very legal way of saying all the things I just expressed to you, right? So Ripple's going to say, hey, Judge, well, the SEC wants $2 billion, but you only said that $700 million of the sales were securities. So let's instantly say that doesn't make any sense. And then Ripple's going to say, okay, now we're at the $700 million right here. But out of that $700 million, only $50 million was sold inside the United States. So the SEC doesn't have jurisdiction over that other $650 million. And then for this $50 million sale, right? Well, those institutional investors bought XRP at half a penny. Now XRP is trading at 60 cents. So those institutional investors made 10,000% on their investment. Does that sound like there's any damages? Who was hurt by the process of getting XRP at half a penny and selling it for 60 cents? So is it actually going to be that concrete, right? Is it actually going to be like, oh, here's the three-step scenario for why the SEC gets nothing? No, it's going to be a lot more complex than that. But that's the kind of argument Ripple's going to be making to the court to say, look, we'll fork over $50 million, right? That's a good size fine. The SEC can have $50 million. This is just a closing negotiation. After that, I think the SEC gets a reply brief. I could be wrong. I believe the SEC gets a reply brief. Maybe 3 weeks after that, Ripple might have another reply brief. I don't think so. I don't think they really need it. Who knows, though? After that, it's just waiting on the ruling. And let me tell you guys real quickly why you might not want a ruling as fast as you think. This is something I have been thinking about for a while. We might not want a ruling as fast as we think. Why? What is coming up in November, right? The elections. If we get a ruling early, say we had a ruling today, Gary Gensler would actually have time as the SEC chair, right, to think about whether he wanted to appeal this decision or not. If we can get to the elections and we can get a point to where Gary Gensler might not be at the SEC anymore when this ruling comes in, then we could actually have a new chair of the SEC getting this new ruling, right? We could have, say, Hester Peirce as the SEC commissioner getting the ruling. Judge Torres slams the hammer down. The SEC gets $50 million from Ripple, right? If Gary Gensler's not there anymore, right, and we have, say, Hester Peirce at the SEC, then this case is never going to get appealed, right? Hester Peirce is not appealing this case. She wants out of it. So that's the one thing I'll say. A lot of people are really wanting this case to conclude as fast as possible. A lot of people are really hoping that this case is over tomorrow. But I would actually make the argument that it might be better if we could just push this case over or push this case off until we have around the November elections, around when Gary Gensler should be out of the SEC, because if that would happen, then we might get the ruling at a time where there's either no SEC chair or we have a different SEC chair that doesn't want to push this to a higher level court, and then Ripple just gets an all-out win and this thing is said and done. My one fear about the case ending today from a Judge Torres ruling and not a settlement would be that the case could be appealed. One other thing, if the case is settled, then it's over, right? We move on, it's over tomorrow, boom. That would be very bullish, and then it doesn't matter when it ends, right? I'm just saying if it comes down to Judge Torres' ruling, if it comes down to Judge Torres dropping the hammer and saying this is what people owe, then we might actually want it to take a little longer. Anywhere around the fall would be a really good time for it to end. Something where Gary Gensler can't write up his appeal. A settlement takes all of that off the table. And I just think the most bullish scenario would be if Judge Torres slams the hammer down in November. There's a change in the administration. Gary Gensler's out, and the new SEC chair says, what just happened at the SEC? I need to get the reputation back for this agency. I need to end these cases that are a road to nowhere. Look, I hope the new SEC chair comes in and says, look, Ripple is not the company we want to be going after. Coinbase is not the company we want to be going after. Let's start hammering the frauds. Let's start hammering the people in this industry who are clearly acting maliciously. And then what do we do from there? We work with Congress to say what's a security, what's not, how do we get these companies registered, and move forward. That is all we need to do. Look, everything is looking really, really good in terms of this court case. My only worry out there could possibly be some kind of appeal to the Second Circuit. The good news is, though, guys, is, Nom Nom says, a win at the Supreme Court would put XRP as the cleanest crypto in the world, rocking the price. I agree, Nom Nom. I just don't know if I agree with people in thinking that XRP needs to go to the Supreme Court. Because think about it this way, right? The Supreme Court would only be if the SEC kept fighting. I do think there's a very realistic possibility that we might be in a scenario where the SEC is done fighting. The SEC is forced to give up. And I know it doesn't seem like that with the current SEC, but it is very possible that if we do have a different administration, Hester Peirce could be the head of the SEC. And I just think everything looks completely different. If Hester Peirce is the head of the SEC, we're not going to be fighting these cases to the Supreme Court. If Hester Peirce is head of the SEC is just going to be making statements that coins like XRP are not a security, right? So as much as I do understand that Ripple would win if they went, as much as I do understand that Ripple would win if they went to the Supreme Court, as much as I do understand that a Supreme Court win would be ultimate clarity, I question whether or not we would have to go there if we had an administration that actually wants to make it so cryptocurrencies, right, could prosper in the United States. So I know there's a lot going on there. There's a lot of moving parts. I would say this. The worst case scenario out there, I believe, is XRP, Ripple having to fight to the Supreme Court and winning at the Supreme Court. I don't think there's any scenario anymore in which XRP could be a security. I don't think there's any scenario in which Ripple loses. Ripple will win at the Supreme Court level. I hope it doesn't have to go there, but I think that's the worst case scenario. Look, when the worst case scenario is Ripple winning and XRP not being a security, we're not sitting in a bad spot, right? We're not sitting in a bad spot when the worst case scenario is XRP is not a security and Ripple wins. Would it be annoying that we had to keep following this case for that much longer? Yes, but I have a hard time believing that's where this thing is going to go. All right, guys, sorry. I know I neglected questions for the first 25 minutes of this stream. Hopefully you guys now feel pretty caught up on where the case is and exactly what's going on. That's about as in-depth of a summary as I could possibly give on this entire case. So if you guys have any questions about the case, if you have any questions about the SEC, feel free to drop them in the chat. If you have questions about anything else, yeah, drop those too, right? I'm glad I was able to kind of give that little rundown of everything going on. And hopefully what I really want you to take away from that, right, is the case is a lot less important than many people, I think, understand at this point, right? The SEC's case is has never looked worse. So I hope that at least helps people understand that there's not much of a worry anymore about the case. Yeah, John, yeah. Prayers for the victims of that bridge collapsing in Baltimore. That was absolutely insane. Massive prayers to anyone who had any involvement there. I hope none of you did, but if you did, Ed, that's a great point. That's a great point. What time are the meeting today? Is there supposed to be a meeting today? I'm not that caught up on it. Is there supposed to be a meeting today? Ed made a great point. Negative news is not hurting the price of XRP. That is obviously a very, very, very good thing to see. Right now, it seems like XRP is still stuck, just traded on noise. I think that's eventually going to stop, and we're going to see XRP, right, really deviate from this sideways pattern it's stuck in. But definitely pretty funny. Let's see this. Yeah, here's a funny one, right? Here's a funny one. This is an example of a tweet that the SEC put in their case as evidence. The tweet says, XRP is not a security and that's a fact. You know, why would you put that in the case? Why would you put in the case retail investors taking away from the ruling that XRP is not a security? It just shows that everyone out there now knows that XRP is not a security. It's a total insane thing for you to put as evidence in your case. Like if Ripple put that in as evidence, look, that'd be a big win, right? Ripple makes sense why Ripple would want that. But why is the SEC adding tweets showing that retail investors know that XRP is not a security? It's a total joke. It's a total F up. And I don't know whether or not it's laziness. I don't know whether or not it's incompetence. But whatever it is, right? If I was working at the SEC, I would say do not put that tweet in. Do not show the judge that everyone out there now knows that XRP is not a security. Because now what is Judge Torres going to think? Oh, I want to make sure I don't confuse the retail. I want to make sure retail knows they're right that XRP is not a security. It's just insane that that's what you would do. Steve, I agree. It is completely childish. It's completely childish. But not only is it childish, it's dumb. It's childish and dumb, which is even worse. Ian, that's a good question. That's a good question. If Ethereum starts pumping, is the SEC going to drop a case against them? Well, the very interesting thing, Ian, is like, look, I've been roasting the SEC a lot, right, on their case against Ripple, right? I've been roasting the SEC a lot on their case against Ripple. It almost seems like the SEC is trying to lose the case, but we won't go there. The SEC has a much better, in my opinion, the SEC has a much better case, in my opinion, against Ethereum. And it's just because they're taking a whole new avenue. They're saying staking is what makes it a security. Look, I don't know the merits of whether or not that makes sense on staking being a security, but I think the SEC is at least making a smart move in abandoning every strategy they had in the Ripple SEC case, right? The SEC is packing up their bags and saying, look, we are not going to do anything close to what we did in the Ripple SEC case because that went terribly, right? They're like, all right, let's certainly not go down that road again because we got absolutely annihilated. So I do think it's smart that the SEC is at least saying, okay, we need to completely pivot and go after something else like staking. It's a completely different argument. It's a completely different set of facts and circumstances. So I think that is at least a smart move by the SEC. Is the SEC going to go after Ethereum when it starts pumping, just like they went after XRP when it started pumping? Ian, that was your question. I don't know. I really don't. My base assumption was that the SEC wouldn't go after Ethereum, and this is something I have made explicitly clear on this. Look, guys, I'm one of the few people I feel like out there who is absolutely fine with admitting when I was completely wrong on something. I was a very firm believer that the SEC would not go after Ethereum. It's looking like that is something that could possibly happen based on some language being pushed by the SEC right now. But my overall thought is I still don't understand why you would do that, right? If you were a government agency, right, and you had a lot of sketchy emails with a specific entity trying to essentially push them through the door on a regulatory free pass, it doesn't seem like to me that would be something you'd want to dig back up, but it seems like that's what they're doing. So we're just going to have to wait and see. Who knows? Maybe Gary Gensler's strategy with the Ethereum thing is, look, that was a Republican SEC, right? That was the Republican SEC that did that. We're not doing that. I mean, Gary Gensler could still technically say this whole Ripple case, right? That was the Republican SEC. So maybe Gary Gensler is just playing politics here and saying, look, that was the other administration. I I don't know what happened there. It was corruption, right? I'm not here to take Bill Himmons back. I'm not here to take Jay Clayton's back. So maybe that's his strategy, right? Maybe he's saying, I didn't let Ethereum through the door, right? That was the other administration. So, we'll just drop that. We'll just drop that as that. Ian, I think it's a good question. I think you could be right there. I still have a hard time deciphering between the SEC's terrible lawyering, their bad strategy, and their political ambitions. But I think it's certainly a possibility that if Ethereum really starts pumping, the SEC is going to say, hey, how do we rein this in? Let's drop a case on proof-of-stake cryptocurrencies. And who knows? I think that would be very good for XRP, right? I think it would be very good for the XRP. I'll say on this channel, and I've said it a million times, I don't want XRP to win because of regulatory capture. I want XRP to win on the tech. I want XRP to win because it's the best blockchain out there. I don't want to be like at the Ethereum crew where we're cheering on the SEC creating a regulatory imbalance. But if it helps XRP, look, I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to hope for it, but I'm not going to complain. Jay Clayton was an independent appointed by ours, but was independent. Yeah, Liz, I understand that argument, but I don't really see it that way, right? I don't see it that way. Everyone's an independent when it's convenient for them. Everyone's an independent when it's convenient for them. As soon as like you kind of just want to go a little more neutral, you're an independent, and then you go right back to the side of politics you're always supporting. So I totally, Liz, you make a good point. He was appointed as an independent, but yeah. To me, it just matters who are you appointed by. Let's take a look at the questions. Sorry, I know I've been doing a lot of ranting today. Haven't been getting to a ton of questions, but always appreciate your questions. Murdoch, thank you, Murdoch. Always appreciate having you here. You've bring great insight to the streams. Massive fan of you. Guys, another thing too is I didn't even talk about it, is a MasterCard Ripple report that came out very recently, and some more R3 XRP news that is definitely getting people super interested. So it's insane, right? It's insane the amount of news that comes in through the cryptocurrency ecosystem on a daily basis. It's like I've been live for almost a half an hour now, and I've covered maybe a third of what I wanted to cover. Thank you again, Murdoch, man. You're the GOAT. Love having you on the streams. Murdoch is the man for sure. Great moderator, too. Great moderator. Let me just check the news feed real quick and make sure I'm not missing out on anything. If not, I'll do a little bit of MasterCard Ripple news. That was interesting. Unless anyone else has any other questions. And I know I've probably missed a ton of questions today. I am sorry about that. Fort Knox wallet has over 6 billion XRP in it. I don't know Fort Knox wallet address. Steve Van, I don't know that much about that. Maybe I'm missing something. I don't even know what the Fort Knox wallet is. So, not to question what you're saying overly, but is there a reliable source on that? And just more information, and maybe I can jump in on that. Yes, Steve. Yeah, if you can find a screenshot or anything, I would love to see it. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes people bring stuff up in the stream and I sound skeptical of it. It's not necessarily that I'm skeptical of the information you're relaying to me. It's just that if I haven't seen it, then I'm like trying to dig through my memory and trying to think, oh, what could this be? What could this be? What could this be? And sometimes, right, someone will send me and I'll be like, oh, yeah, this is exactly what they're talking about. I know that, you know? So, okay, word. Yeah, I know you get it, Steve. I got it. I don't want anyone to take it the wrong way, right? The nice thing about the live stream is it's very easy to show expression, so I think people get it a lot more than when I'm being like sarcastic on X. People always misinterpreted it, so that is the nice part about a live stream. What X? Yankee, I agree, Yankee. I totally agree for that. Look, XRP is positioned in a perfect opportunity. Perfect opportunity to really become an institutional grade cryptocurrency platform. Guys, one of the things I'm really excited about is decentralized ID for the XRP ledger. I think that's a very, very interesting thing to really help institutions start onboarding into this ecosystem. The other thing I wanted to quickly mention, right, because I keep on talking about it and not actually saying anything about it, is the fact that MasterCard actually just released an internal report where they said that Ripple is gaining massive traction with dozens of central banks, and those central banks are specifically building CBDCs with Ripple, the company. Guys, when MasterCard is talking about you as a major player in the CBDC market and working with large amounts of central banks, I think that says a lot about Ripple's disruption on the back end, right? I've been trying to make it clear on this channel, Ripple's disruption is happening in a place most retail investors don't see it. So it's just very interesting to see MasterCard specifically calling out Ripple for gaining traction with central banks and with governments in building central bank digital currencies. So very interesting. And guys, I know a lot of people, I know a lot of people have like kind of a really bad idea of a central bank digital currency, right? The one thing I'll say is, like, if anyone's going to be building central bank digital currencies, I'm glad it's Ripple, right? Ripple, David Schwartz, Brad Garlinghouse, I think these are people who understand the importance of having digital money, but also the importance of not creating some dystopian tool for governments to oppress their citizens. Central bank digital currencies were coming either way. I'm happy Ripple's the one that's building them. I hope they're built in a responsible manner, and I hope they're built in a way that actually helps the unbanked get banked and actually helps more people get access to these high-tech future payment systems than it does to oppress them. I think it's very possible that Ripple does do that. I think it's very possible that Ripple can make strides to do that without going too far into this dystopian future. Yeah, so I just think it's important to understand that a lot of people get very, very upset about the idea of a central bank digital currency. But look, you could build a central bank digital currency that's the same as cash, right? You could build a central bank digital currency that is the same thing as the cash in your wallet. It could be completely anonymous, right? It could be sent from one person to another in a way where no one knows. Do I think that's what governments are going to be building? Absolutely not, right? I think they'll want to track it. I think they're going to want to do a lot of different things with it that we're probably not going to want. But I think at least in places like the United States, it's going to be a lot less dystopian than many people say. Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you so much, Paul. Guys, one of the coolest things about these live streams is YouTube doesn't auto-convert the currency at a US dollar. So it's cool when I see like all these different currencies come in from people around the world. Sometimes I forget, right, how global this YouTube community we've built really is. When I look at my analytics, it's actually wild to see how many people there are from all around the world, and to be able to go live from just like a small state in the United States and be able to see like all these different people, like Murdoch coming in with the rupee. We just got another person. I don't even know the flag. Paul, can you let me know? I mean, guys, my geography is terrible. Like, I looked at that flag and I wanted to say Finland. I feel like that's just like an embarrassment on how wrong it's going to be. But thank you for everyone across the world who tunes into the stream. Really big fan of all of you, and thank you. Gomer, I kind of hit on this at nauseum earlier, so I don't want... Oh, Norway. It's in the same general location. Thank you, Paul. Thank you. Someone said if Ripple won the case, or if XRP is not a security and Ripple won the case, then why are they paying a fine at all? Well, regardless of what you think, right, Ripple did get some of their sales deemed as securities. And guys, look, the judge, like I said earlier, she's like a parent, right, at this point between Ripple and the SEC. This is how I think about it sometimes. Look, Judge Torres is almost like a parent between two fighting kids. The SEC, right, is like the big brother who beat up the little brother and is 99% at fault. But it doesn't mean like the little brother didn't do something to instigate it, right? It didn't mean the little brother didn't do something to tick off the big brother. So, you know, when you have that parent, right, who's breaking up a fight, right, you know, both kids get punished. One kid might be grounded for a month, and the other kid might have to go to his room for 30 minutes. But, you know, the parent, like, usually, right, it throws something both ways, right, just so it doesn't feel too unfair. That's kind of how I see Judge Torres dividing this up. Whether or not you want to analyze it from a super technical sense on the legal aspect, if you look at this entire case, the SEC will get 10 lashes and Ripple will get 1. The SEC will have to hand over 10 things they didn't want to, and Ripple will have to hand over 1. I think when the case is over, right, Ripple's going to have to pay a little bit of money, right? Ripple's going to have to hand over the SEC a little go-away money, right? Judge Torres is going to say, look, I didn't give Ripple the massive win. I made Ripple pay you $50 million, right? You got your win. Ripple paid. Let's move on. I think that's what Judge Torres is going to do. Whether or not Ripple was right on everything, whether they were right on 90% of it, right? I just think the way Judge Torres is going to wrap this up is with, hey, Ripple, pay your damn fine. Let's move on. So it's a really non-technical way of kind of analyzing the way this entire case has gone. Ripple gets 10 big wins, and then the SEC gets 1 big win. Ripple has to hand over 1 document they didn't want to. The SEC has to hand over 10. So it's just the way the case has gone. I think at the end, the SEC wants $2 billion. Ripple hands over $2 million and move on, right? Ripple hands over $50 million, whatever. You can think it's wrong, right? You can think Ripple should owe 0. I just don't think that's how the judge is going to rule. Guys, this judge, right, is found herself in the middle of one of the most hotly contested battles in all of crypto between the most important regulatory agency in the United States and one of the most important fintech companies in the entire world. Look, she doesn't want to seem like an anti-government, anti-SEC. Hey, fintech can do whatever it wants. Cryptocurrencies, you know, make up the rules, move along however you want, right? She's going to want to at least seem like she's not, like, all in, like, all right, sell whatever crypto you want, avoid the securities law, you won't have to pay anything, right? That's not what she wants to give off. Now, I'm sure she hates the SEC at this point, right? I'm sure she wants to see Ripple walk out of this perfectly fine, but she's seen the financials. She knows Ripple has $1 billion on their balance sheet. She knows Ripple has creator funds for $250 million for NFTs. She knows that Ripple is constantly shilling out money to buy new companies. She knows that Ripple is selling large amounts of XRP to help fund their business. She knows Ripple can pay $50 million in the blink of an eye. So she's going to have Ripple give the SEC something. All right. Yeah, maybe Judge Torres is getting ready to retire and she just needs a couple more months to stack her XRP bags, right? If she didn't, she does now. Look, that would be hilarious. That'd be hilarious. I doubt she owns it just because judges are so, like, by the book. Judges are so, like, I won't hold anything. I will be impartial. Like, congrats to them. It could never be me, right? If I was Judge Torres right now, I'd be, like, hammering it. I'd be on uphold. I'd be accumulating my bag. I'd come out with a ruling. I'd be like, XRP is absolutely not a security. Ripple can do whatever they want in the United States and sit on that bag, but I guess that's why I'm not a judge. I guess that's why I'm not a judge, right? Maybe if I ever try to be a judge, they'll bring up this live stream and be like, you admitted to wanting to insider trade based on rulings. I'd sit there and be like, oh, well, I guess I knew it was going to come back to bite me at some point. No, I'm obviously kidding, but judges do have this this very deep allegiance to the law in a lot of aspects. That's really impressive. It is really impressive. She seems like one of them, guys. Let me say right now, and I know we've said this a lot on the channel, but I mean, we all have to be very, very thankful that we got Judge Torres, right? Very, very thankful that we got Judge Torres. I mean, this is an, I don't want to call her like, this is a older woman, not an old woman, right? Just someone who is older in age, who clearly took the time to understand cryptocurrencies, clearly took the time to go against the SEC, clearly took the time to understand the issues. Look, I know some judges right out there, right, who would have just said, okay, what the SEC says goes. This company is a scam. They're selling a digital token. They're selling it to retail. This is all one massive securities violation. Let's clean this up, right? If what the SEC says goes, let's move on. The fact that Judge Torres took her time to really understand this is big. Oh, Daniel. I am sorry, man. I am sorry. I completely forgot your question. I kept on seeing you see linked to with a question mark, right? And I was like, what is Daniel talking about? I totally remember now. I said I would answer that question. It's the Swedish Kronor, and I'm in Norway, but work in Stockholm, Sweden. Cheers. Paul, thank you. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. I love learning more about you guys, so that's super cool. Paul, thank you so much, man. Really appreciate you having you on these streams. You're a great addition. So thank you for supporting the channel. And I love hearing more about you guys. So guys, don't ever feel like whatever like that. I only need to see Ripple and XRP stuff in the chat. Oh, always love learning more about you guys. So thank you, Paul. Daniel, let me get to your freaking question before I forget again. Daniel, if I recall correctly, it was about Link 2 running out of Ripple and Circle stock. I have a couple points on this, right? Obviously, Ripple and Circle stock flying off the shelves is a good sign, right? The fact that Ripple and Circle stock is flying off the shelves is not a bad sign, right? That's clearly not a bad sign. The one thing I'll say in regards to that is Link 2 is a company that is heavily involved in cryptocurrencies, right? So it makes sense that the stock that flies off the shelf the fastest would be Ripple and Circle. To me, that just seems kind of obvious. So is it bullish that Ripple and Circle are flying off the shelves? For sure. It's better than them coming out and saying, oh, well, there's no demand for Ripple and Circle, right? But do I think it's some kind of indicator? I think it makes sense, right? I do think it makes sense. So it's a good sign for sure. I don't know if it's indicative of anything much further than there being a lot of demand for Ripple and Circle. So I'll leave it at that. Oh, Landon, I don't agree. Landon, that's a great question, by the way, so thank you for bringing that up. Landon said, can you talk about Fred Rispoli's thoughts on discounted institutional sales? That might be the reason the price has been suppressed. Look, Landon, I am a huge fan of Fred. I think I was actually one of the first people to interview Fred on my channel and kind of bring him some notoriety in this community. He was talking about Circle and Link to IPO. But why Ripple? Possible IPO as well. Landon, I'll get to you in a second. He's talking about Circle and Link to IPO. But why Ripple? Possible IPO as well. Okay. Circle, we know is looking to IPO. Link 2, we also know is looking to IPO. Ripple, we know is also looking to IPO. My biggest thing for knowing Ripple wants to IPO is a simple fact that Brad Garlinghouse said that when Coinbase went IPO, the entire market looked at Coinbase completely differently. So my base assumption is that Ripple wants to go IPO as fast as possible because it's going to make people in the United States think they're more credible. That makes absolutely no sense from a legal aspect, but that's simply how institutions in the United States are looking at it. So I do believe Ripple is on the verge of going IPO. I do believe Circle is on the verge of going IPO because they said it. I believe Link 2 is on the verge of going IPO because they said it. Ripple said they want to go IPO. They said the case is holding them back, but I think Ripple does want to go IPO as soon as possible. In terms of IPO and that leading to more sales on Link 2, I don't really know. Possibly insiders know, but insiders need to be careful about trading these things on material. I would say there's better indications out there that these companies want to go IPO other than their stock flying off the shelves at Link2. But like I said, again, right, it's definitely a good sign that people are interested in it. So that's my general thoughts around that. I do want to get to this question by Landon. Can you talk about Fred Rispoli's thoughts on the discounted institutional sales and whether or not that's suppressing the price of XRP? Like I said, I'm a big fan of Fred Rispoli. I don't think he's right here. If you're going to say that Ripple's institutional sales are suppressing the price of XRP, then you also have to convince me that Ripple's institutional sales are also suppressing the price of XLM. Why? Because XRP and XLM have the same exact price chart. XLM burned their escrow, right? XLM isn't selling institutional sales. So if you're going to convince me that Ripple's institutional sales are suppressing the price of XRP, then you're going to have to also convince me or tell me why XRP and XLM have the same price chart. You're also going to have to tell me how XRP went up 10,000% in 2018, became the number 6 most valuable cryptocurrency. So I don't really think there's really any truth to that. I understand what Fred Rispoli is trying to communicate, right? But look, Ethereum had an ICO at 25 cents, right? Sold it to Mike Novogratz, and the Ethereum whales took over most of the supply, and they've been dumping Ethereum that they got on a cheap discount, and that hasn't suppressed the price of Ethereum, right? So I just think, like, Fred Rispoli put out a great tweet thread, and I think that specific part that he brought up, I didn't think really hit home with me on how the market has actually functioned. I just think you can point to a lot of things that kind of disprove Ripple's institutional sales have any impact. Because just logically, right, if XLM has no escrow, if the XRP ledger does have the escrow, and you're saying that XRP's price is suppressed because that escrow is being sold onto the XRP supply, then, like, very logically, you'd say, okay, well, then XRP should underperform XLM, but XRP has outperformed XLM. So, right, there's just, like, holes you can kind of point to where I don't think that necessarily kind of plays out like many people think. Like I said, I love Fred. I think it was a great tweet thread. I don't think that ruins the thread in any way. I think he was only asking a question. So I'm just providing my pushback on that specific point. I don't really think it makes sense that much, but I do understand where he comes from. I totally understand why people would think XRP is suppressed by Ripple because of their selling. It's just hard to find any actual proof of it doing anything. And in fact, all the proof says it doesn't. And look, I'm with you guys, right? I understand why that's so counterintuitive. If Ripple's selling a lot of XRP, shouldn't that keep the price down? You'd think yes, it just hasn't really proved to be the case. So hopefully that makes sense. And I don't want to keep repeating myself, but it was a great tweet thread by Fred Rispoli. I actually highlighted it, right? Because I thought it was such a good tweet thread. But, you know, people are entitled to their own opinions, and I'm just not fully on board with him on that. And actually, I think if I had a chance to go live with Fred, I think I could actually convince him pretty easily, right, to be in my camp on this. So, who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Strong Mountain, thoughts on large institutions and dumping? Look, Strong Mountain, that's capitalism, right? Like, this is what I think a lot of people misunderstand. Like, that's just capitalism. Look, if these large institutions are dumping the XRP that they got from Ripple, right, then they're just going to miss out over the long run when XRP goes up. Like, the institutions only have so much XRP, and then they're going to be out of XRP. So, that's my... No, you're good, Strong Mountain. It's a great question. But, look, it's capitalism, right? Like, Ripple's going to sell XRP. Institutions are going to buy XRP, and if they don't want the XRP, they're going to sell it. To try to tell institutions, hey, you have to hold your XRP forever and you're never allowed to sell, right? It's just, that's not how capitalism works, right? Look, it's a free market. Institutions can buy XRP, they can dump their XRP, they can buy more XRP, they can sell their XRP, right? They can do whatever they want with their XRP. Trying to tell institutions what they're allowed and not allowed to do with their XRP, right, it's just not going to work, right? If institutions were smart, in my opinion, they would keep their XRP because Ripple is building a global network that's going to change the financial system, and XRP is going to be a key part of it. Look, that's how I see it, right? And we're going to find out if I'm right or wrong. Maybe these institutions, right, are geniuses, right? this was never going to work. They're dumping their XRP because they're bearish on the network. They don't see XRP success, right? Or maybe they're wrong, right? Maybe they didn't see the success. Maybe they were wrong. Maybe they were only selling a very small portion of their XRP, right? No one knows the case, but I wouldn't overanalyze, right? Single-digit institutions selling some XRP for whatever possible reason, right? No one knows why they're doing it. Take a look at the Grayscale example, right? Grayscale was forced to dump a lot of their XRP when the Ripple SEC case hit. Grayscale didn't want to do it. They were essentially being forced by shareholders to say, look, this XRP could be deemed a security. We need to get rid of it. So every institution is going to have their own reason for selling. I just don't think it's worth opening the can of worms of going to an institution and saying, okay, well, you're not allowed to sell your XRP. You're only allowed to hold it, right? Like, look, they're going to be, if they're either going to be right or they're going to be wrong, but trying to focus and force people to do what you want them to do is not a winning solution. And that's actually a mentality I got from David Schwartz, right? It's a mentality I got from David Schwartz. David Schwartz in the early days when Ripple was building centralized software for messaging said, look, we can't force institutions to use XRP, right? We're going to make a solution with XRP where XRP is the best way to move money from point A to point B. But if we go to these institutions and say, you're not working with Ripple unless you use XRP, right? That's not what any institution wants to hear, right? Institutions are going to say, hey, we were working with you because we want to use XRP in the future, but we can't quite use it now, right? So let us make the choice for ourselves for when we want to flip the switch and turn on XRP, and we'll do that. But Ripple's strategy can't be, you're only allowed to use XRP, right? That's not a winning solution. In the same way, it's not a winning solution, right, to go to these institutions and saying, okay, well, now that you have your XRP, you're not allowed to sell it, right? That's not what anyone wants. And it's not what you guys want, right? You don't want to be told, hey, you're not allowed to sell your XRP because you're going to provide selling pressure. It's like, hell no, I'm going to do whatever I want with my XRP. Landon, I did it. No problem, Landon. It was a great question. It's a great question. Whenever you get me to go on a 15-minute rant on a single question, it means you hit a good question, right? So if you can get me ranting for that long on a single question, it means you hit a home run on the question. So great job. And I would love to go live with Fred again. Fred's a great guy, man. Fred is a great guy. Actually, for those of you who don't know, Fred was one of the people where, I don't know, the OGs remember, there was a time where my YouTube channel actually got taken down. It was during the banking collapse about a year ago. Got it, John. Appreciate it, John. Thank you. Got it, John. It was during the banking collapse about a year ago. My YouTube channel actually got taken down because I'm one of the first people talking about the banking collapse. I don't know. That didn't seem like I did anything wrong to me. To me, it was like I was just reporting on the news, but I guess YouTube didn't like me talking about the banking collapse, whatever. Fred was one of the first attorneys who was reaching out to me, helped guiding me through the process and helped me get my YouTube channel back. So a stellar dude, right? Just an absolute legend. And then if I have to throw out one more shout out, since I'm already talking about it, the other one is Ashley Prosper. If you guys don't know her on X, it's just someone you need to follow. She helped me through the entire thing. She helped me get my account back. Daniel, yep, Kashta is a great person to follow. Great person to follow. And guys, what you'll notice too is on X, a lot of times I'll retweet people's tweets and I'll just put emojis above it or whatever. I'll just put the eye emojis. And some people think I'm like trying to like hype up stuff by doing that. Absolutely not. When I do that, all I want to do is try to show you guys like, hey, this person provides really good insight, like you should follow them. Because sometimes if I just hit the retweet button, right, it's hard to actually see who retweeted the tweet. So then you see their tweet, but you don't know if it's credible or not, or you don't know what I think about that person. So a lot of times on X, if you want to actually see the people I follow and see the people who I get a lot of insight from and the people saying things that I find really interesting, what I'll do is I'll actually just put like emojis above their tweet, like maybe just the eyeball emojis. And it's not right. A lot of people are like, you're engagement farming. It's like, no, I want people to understand what I look at and what I find interesting. So that way you guys know, like, hey, this is someone I follow who you could also follow, right? So I just want to provide that because people, yep, exactly, Daniel. People always ask me, Mikkel, who do you follow, right? Like, yeah, that's how I kind of show you guys, like, hey, this person provides great insight. You should follow them. Frank, welcome, 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 welcome. Thank you for becoming a member, Frank. Absolutely love the support for the channel you guys give. You guys are absolutely amazing. Frank, thank you, thank you, thank you. You guys are the reason I'm able to do this every day. You guys inspire me to get on these streams. I think I say it every single live stream now, but these live streams are my favorite part of my day by far. So thank you, Frank. Really appreciate it. All right, guys. Well, I'm 5 minutes over time. The great questions haven't stopped coming, unfortunately. I know I missed about 1 million. So, guys, I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you to everyone who comes here every single day. You guys are absolutely incredible. We'll be doing the same thing, same time tomorrow. So if I didn't get to your question, just make sure to come back tomorrow and hopefully we'll get to it. I do say all the time, the best time to answer questions or the best time to ask me a question is in the beginning. It's when I can actually read the stream without it flying by. So if you do want your question answered, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and it will help you get here nice and early. It will let you know when I do go live so you can see it. Guys, thank you so much for coming. Shout out to all the mods. Thank you guys for being here day in and day out. And thank you to everyone else who comes. You guys are amazing. And for now, Mikkel out.